Hey, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. You're listening to the longest running superhero role playing game on Earth. I'm your host, the Game Master, and today we're talking about the Green Lantern Corps. But before we get into that, smash that like button, make sure you're subscribed, ring the bell, and leave a comment. We've got a great community here, and it's all thanks to you guys. Thank you so much for being here. With all that said, let's dive in. The prologue to this one takes place in 1981 when Amazo is fighting the Justice League of America. Amazo has a copy of Wonder Woman's lasso, Superman's strength, Martian Manhunter's shapeshifting, Green Lantern's power ring, as well as his 25 EPs of willpower, the super speed of the Flash, the Omni gadgets of Batman, the telepathy of Aquaman, etc. And as such, Hal Jordan, who's been doing this for over 20 years now, has his hands full, and he's knocked out when Amazo punches him with the 50 APs of strength from Superman. So when an SOS comes through Hal Jordan's power ring, he cannot answer it. Meanwhile, at the very edge of the universe, the villain known as Krona has opened a strange portal, and the Guardians of the Universe are here investigating it when suddenly they're attacked by Necron, Lord of the Unliving, whose strange purple lightning can actually hurt the small blue Owens. Meanwhile, on the planet Oa, several Green Lanterns have gathered to investigate the disappearance of the Guardians. They discuss the situation and agree to look for Krona and his army. So they fly off into space at 40 APs of speed, but without the help of Hal Jordan, who's the greatest Green Lantern of them all. The Green Lanterns assembled here are Aricia Rab, Arcus Chimuk, Charisma, Katma Tui, Madonna, Stell, and Tomar Ray. Stell is the first of the Green Lanterns to drop out of warp, and thus he's also the first to suffer the consequences of his quest. He senses someone behind him and turns, but he's a fraction of a second too late. Krona hits Stell, taking almost all of his hit points in a single blow. Stell fires an energy blast at Krona, and it does hit, but it doesn't hurt the villain. Krona, in turn, rips the robot's arms and legs off. The one-sided battle is mercifully brief, but unmercifully savage. And when it's finally over, the valiant Stell drifts in twisted pieces, and the monster called Krona is gone once more into the darkness. Stell's power ring sends forth a desperate cry for help. The signal is faint, struggling to be heard over the unimaginable distance, but nonetheless, it is heard and answered. The Green Lanterns show up, and Stell tells them he did find Krona, 500 light years from Oa. Madonna says they are 600 light years from Oa, not 500. But Stell insists it's 500. As it turns out, the universe is shrinking. Krona looked back at the dawn of creation, and now he's trying to unmake all reality as we know it. So the Green Lanterns return to Oa, where they commandeer a prototype starship called the Interceptor, which moves even faster than they can fly with their power rings. The ship's AI can project a hologram that it can use to talk to the crew, and they give it the nickname Aya. Aya asks them where they want to go, and Aricia says they need to go to Earth to look for Hal Jordan, which brings us to the main plot. The Interceptor drops out of warp high above the Earth and streaks down into its atmosphere. Aya tries to save the life of Stell, but cannot. The valiant robot only has a few moments left. So the Interceptor lands in the same remote area of desert where Abin's sewer once crashed, a site chosen intentionally because it's far from the eye of humanity. With his last bit of strength, Stell tells his ring to find a worthy successor. So the Green Lantern ring scans for anyone with a willpower of 16 or higher, a spirit of 12 or higher, the iron nerves advantage, and a heroic motivation. And it finds a bunch of guys who were all named John Redbridge, whose mental and spiritual attributes are all at 25 APs. When Abin Sur's power ring did this, it detected both Hal Jordan and Guy Gardner. But because Hal was closer in physical proximity, it chose him. So too does this ring go to the nearest John Redbridge, one that we've never seen before. His story starts now. So this John Redbridge is driving through the desert when the ring comes to him. It says, John Redbridge of Earth, you have the ability to overcome great fear. Welcome to the Green Lantern Corps. Then it takes him back to the interceptor where Stell is laying there. Stell tells John that it's his turn. The universe needs him. Stell asks him to do a good job, and John makes a solemn promise that he'll do his very best. And with that, Stell of Grenda dies. Madonna says, poor Stell, he's gone to sleep, the final sleep of the innocent. John asks who killed him, and Tomar Ray says it was Krona. John asks who Krona is, and Aricia says Krona was imprisoned for trying to learn the origin of the universe. One of the other lanterns says Krona intends to bring the universe to an end by uncreating it, and we only have a few hours left to stop him. Since John has an intelligence of 25, he's very familiar with the Big Crunch theory that suggests that one day the universe will stop growing and it will instead begin to shrink, and as the universe grows smaller, it would also get hotter, the opposite of the Big Bang. And according to the lanterns, that's what's happening right now. Tomar Ray says they should look for Krona. Kop Matui says it shouldn't be hard. Krona's toying with them and wants to be found. Tomar says that's his biggest mistake. So the interceptor leaves Earth and streaks through space. On the journey, Kop Matui asks where Krona got the power to do all this stuff that he's doing. Tomar interrupts her, though, saying there's something on the ship's sensors. Seemingly unaffected by the airless void of deep space, an apparently endless stream of misshapen creatures scramble closer. They reek of an undescribable evil. Aricia exclaims, Krona's army. A massive battle breaks out that lasts forever, and in the end, only one cowardly villain remains. So Redbridge questions him using his 25 APs of the charisma skill. And the villain says that once Krona was defeated and the Guardians turned him into pure energy, then sent him on an infinite voyage through the void for what seemed like forever. Krona hurtled through the interstellar vastness, eventually leaving the Earth K dimension itself behind him as he plunged headlong through the final barrier between dimensions towards the timeless domain of Necron, Lord of the Unliving. Redbridge is shocked. The Old Ones created him long ago to destroy a villain with that very same name. The captured henchman continues, saying that the domain of Necron is neither heaven nor hell. Rather, it's a place between them, where countless souls wait for what comes next. Redbridge says it sounds like purgatory, and the various Green Lanterns all have a similar idea from their respective cultures. The henchman says that it was there that Necron sensed the coming of Krona and knew it was good. For Krona was immortal, and yet, by entering Necron's domain, he was also, by definition, dead. And that anomaly caused a rift, and Necron peered through it, and for the first time, he clearly beheld the land of the living. And so, Necron restored Krona, making him more powerful than ever. Krona was sent back to the Earth K dimension to slay other immortals and widen the rift. These other immortals were the guardians of the universe. And just then, one such guardian arrives on the scene, and with his dying breath, he tells the Lanterns that while they've been here fighting Necron's army of the undead, Oa has been under attack. Moments later, the interceptor warps into the sky over Oa. Redbridge sees the massive villain known as Krona standing over all the lanterns that he's defeated in battle. So the Green Lanterns of the Interceptor get out and fight Krona, and Redbridge has an idea. He was studying how the power ring works on the trip here and understands how omnipower works. So he asks all the other lanterns to sub their omnipower for enchantment. So they make Redbridge far more powerful than he normally is, and he attacks, only to fail. Krona takes no damage, and Redbridge is knocked out. He's the last to wake up, and all the other lanterns had also been knocked out. They tell him that even their combined might can't hurt Krona now that Necron enchanted him. So Redbridge comes up with a new plan. The Green Lantern Corps flies to the rift, which is now almost big enough for the gigantic Necron to pass through. The remaining Owens join them, and together they shoot green lasers at the bad guys. But again, Necron's army of the dead pours through and more Owens die, widening the rift. So now, at last, Necron enters the Earth K dimension. Again, Redbridge asks the Green Lantern Corps to sub their omnipower for enchantment, but this time he asks them to boost his omnipower, which gives him over 40,000 APs of neutralize, and he shoots Necron with it. The Lord of the Unliving shrivels up and becomes powerless. His own enchantment is nullified, and Krona's stats go back to normal. Krona passes through the portal in the hopes of escaping from his attackers, and the lanterns all sub their omnipower for the ability to close the portal. The day is saved, and the Green Lanterns and the Guardians of the Universe return to the planet Oa, where Redbridge is called before the Guardians. They tell him that Earth already has multiple lanterns, but he did well today. So they will allow him to keep Stell's power ring for now, as long as he continues to do well. Speaking of the Green Lanterns of Earth, that brings us to our epilogue, which takes place on Earth, where it turns out Amazo was a pawn of another villain named the Key, who was dying. He used Amazo to absorb the powers of the Justice League, which he then transferred into himself to sustain his own life. But when the Justice League became powerless, so did Amazo. So Black Canary uses her martial arts on the powerless robot, and as she does that, Ray Palmer, who is stuck, shrunk down, uses his scientific knowledge to access the equipment that the Key was using to give the Justice League their powers back. The Key is upset that he'll die now, so out of pity, Zatanna uses up the last of her magical powers, giving him what he needs to live. And before, the Key had a normal size head, but a tiny little body. So he wore an android suit that the little body fit inside of. But no more. Now he has a normal body. So he's thankful, and he literally kisses Zatanna's feet. And Hal Jordan says, thanks to the Key, his power ring has been offline for what feels like an eternity. And as such, he'd better swing by Oa to see if there's anything he'd missed. And that was it for that one. We liked it. We hope you did too. If so, as always, smash like, make sure you're subscribed, ring the bell, and leave a comment. From all of us here at the longest running superhero role-playing game on Earth, we hope you have a good one, and we'll see you in the next adventure.